Story 1. He slept with my brother. On our wedding day, I was standing at the altar, staring into the eyes of the man who had been in my brother's bed less than an hour ago. And I smiled. Everyone around us thought it was a smile of love, of nervous joy. But I knew what it really was. It was the smile of a woman who'd been burned so many times, she finally decided to stop screaming. You're probably wondering why I still went through with the wedding. Why I wore the dress, walked the aisle, stood in front of all those people. But that's the thing, betrayal doesn't just snap your spine. Peels your skin off slowly while asking you to keep dancing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back. I grew up in a quiet town in New Jersey where secrets didn't scream, they whispered behind closed doors. My brother Nate was 2 years older than me. We were inseparable as kids. He was the golden child, charming, athletic, the boy with the mischievous smile who always got away with everything. And I was the observer. Quiet girl with big eyes who noticed what no one else did. My parents fought a lot. Not loudly, their rage was icy and silent. I watched my mom erase her feelings every morning with a perfectly drawn smile, and my dad bury his resentment in work and bourbon. From a young age, I understood that people lie. That love is rarely safe. That even the people you trust most can shatter you without a sound. By the time I was 15, I had become a master at pretending. Pretending I wasn't lonely. Pretending Nate's jokes didn't hurt. Pretending I didn't see the way he manipulated people, including me. He'd borrow things and never give them back. Take credit for what I did. Flirt with my friends just to prove he could. But he was still my brother. So when Andrew came into my life during college, kind, warm, safe, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could rewrite the pattern. Andrew was everything my father wasn't. He looked people in the eye. He asked about my day. He held me like I mattered. And for a while I believed it. I let my guard down. I loved him with every part of me that still knew how to love. We dated for 3 years. Then came the proposal, rose petals, candlelight, a ring I never expected but always wanted. And then, the moment he asked if Nate could be his best man. I hesitated. Something inside me twisted. But I said yes, because I wanted to believe Andrew wasn't like the rest. What followed was a year of planning, dresses, guest lists, tastings, but beneath all of it was a creeping sickness I couldn't shake. It started with little things. Andrew and Nate texting late at night. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. Glances that lingered just a second too long. I told myself I was being paranoid. That I was just projecting old wounds onto new people. That jealousy was ugly and unworthy of someone like me. But then came the weekend in March. Andrew told me he was going on a bachelor trip. Just the guys, he said. Vegas. A suite. Some drinks. Nothing wild. Nate went too. When they got back, Andrew barely touched me. He smiled. He laughed. He acted like everything was fine, but I could feel the distance. Like he was playing a role he no longer remembered how to inhabit. I checked his phone. Yes, I know. I shouldn't have. But instinct doesn't ask for permission. What I found wasn't explicit. No photos. No, I love US. Just fragments. Texts like, last night. Still thinking about it. We said it was just a one-time thing. No regrets. But we need to be careful. All sent to a number saved under the name Eli, a name I didn't recognize. But the area code? It was ours. And the timestamps? They lined up with the trip. I felt my lungs shrink. I confronted Andrew that night, shaking, holding the phone in my hands like it was made of acid. He denied everything. Said I was being crazy. Said it was an old friend from college. That I didn't trust him. I wanted to believe him. But the next morning I called the number. It went straight to voicemail. And the voice on the other end was my brother's. I stared at the phone, my hand shaking so violently that it was a miracle I hadn't dropped it. The words voicemail FL ashed across the screen as I hung up. But what really hit me deep in my chest was the hollow certainty that I wasn't imagining this. My brother and Andrew didn't make sense. Nate had always been a player, the charming flirt. He never committed to anyone, never stuck around long enough to have a relationship. But Andrew was my world. How could they both betray me? But the worst part? I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that they'd done this or the fact that I'd been too blind to see it coming. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, pacing the living room in a haze of disbelief. I thought of all the times Andrew had smiled at me, kissed me, whispered that he loved me. How many of those words were lies? How many of those moments were staged? And then there was Nate, my brother, person who should have protected me, the one who should have had my back, not stolen the man I was about to marry. By morning, my face was swollen from crying. But I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them yet. I wasn't going to make a scene, not while everyone was watching. No. I was going to wait. I was going to play my part, let the wedding unfold, and find the truth in front of everyone. I smiled when I spoke to them. I pretended nothing was wrong, nothing had changed. I went to the fittings, the tastings, and every meeting I had scheduled. All the while, I was building a quiet fury inside me. Every time I looked at Andrew, I felt it. Every time Nate came around, I felt it. And then the day arrived. It was a blur of motion, the final preparations for the wedding. The FL hours, the dresses, the caterers, all of it. But my mind? It was XCD on one thing. One question, how had it gone this far? The church, I looked at Andrew as he stood at the altar. He looked handsome, flawless, with that smile he knew so well how to wear. But beneath the surface, I saw the cracks, the subtle way he shifted his weight, how his hand tightened on the bouquet. Was he nervous because he was getting married? Or because I was about to destroy him? I walked down the aisle, trying to keep my composure, trying to pretend I wasn't seconds away from falling apart. My eyes never left Andrew's, but my heart wasn't in the ceremony. Not really. I was already miles away, planning my next move. The vows came. Andrew said his words with all the passion he could muster. He promised to love me forever, to protect me, to always be honest. I could barely hear him. My thoughts were elsewhere. Then came the moment of truth, the part where they ask if anyone has objections. I stood still for what felt like hours. My pulse thundered in my ears. My chest constricted with a mixture of rage and something else, fear maybe. Fear of what I was about to do, fear of tearing everything apart. But I couldn't let it go. I couldn't pretend. I object. The words were simple, quiet, but they shook the room. Andrew turned, his eyes wide, his face pale. Everyone turned to look at me, confusion spreading like wildfire across their faces. Nate, standing next to Andrew, stiffened. "Is everything all right?" Priest asked, clearly not understanding. "I object," I repeated, my voice louder this time. "Because Andrew." I paused, my stomach in knots. I could feel their eyes on me, all the guests watching in stunned silence. "Andrew slept with my brother." Gasps Phi led the church. Andrew's face drained of color, his lips parting in disbelief. Nate's expression, however, was something else, a mix of guilt and something deeper, more sinister. He knew. I could see it in his eyes. "You're lying," Andrew sputtered, taking a step towards me, but I didn't inch. "You think I don't know, Andrew?" I spat, my voice shaking but strong. "You think I didn't hear your texts, see your late-night messages?" Called the number Andrew. I called Eli's number. And it was Nate. The room was frozen. The silence was suffocating. "You think I didn't know you both were using me? That you thought I wouldn't figure it out?" I looked at my brother, at the man who had always been my rock, the person who should have been protecting me. "You think I didn't feel the distance? The lies? I saw it all, Nate. I saw everything." For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Andrew turned to my brother. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Nate looked at me, his eyes full of guilt, regret, but nothing resembling the love I had once believed we shared. He nodded. "I'm sorry," Nate muttered. "I never meant for it to go this far." But it did, and I couldn't stop it. I looked at the two of them. The men I thought I would spend my life with. The men who had promised me forever. And just like that, I realized they were both the same. Both selfish, both willing to sacrifice anything for their own desires. Both so consumed with their own needs that they had destroyed me in the process. I didn't cry. Not then. There were no tears. Not for them. I turned to the priest and said, "The wedding's off." The moment I said it, the weight on my chest lifted. Like I'd been underwater for weeks and finally broke through the surface. 1,000 eyes stared at me in stunned silence, but I didn't feel small. I felt powerful and free. I turned around and walked straight out of the church, leaving behind gasps, whispers, and the perfect white world I was supposed to step into. I left behind the future that had already been shattered long before I ever walked down that aisle. Outside, the sky was cloudy, fitting like it knew. The limousine meant to take us to the reception was waiting, its driver watching me through the mirror, confused. I waved him off. I didn't need a ride. I needed to walk. I needed to feel the ground under my feet again. Something real. My phone buzzed over and over. Andrew. Nate. My mother. Friends. Probably people wondering if this was some kind of cruel joke. But it wasn't. It was the truth. And I wasn't running from it anymore. I turned my phone off and kept walking. I didn't go home. Not yet. I wandered. Through the park where Andrew first told me he loved me. Past the bar where Nate had once picked me up drunk, put me to bed, and said, "You always deserve better." The irony burned. Hours passed. The sun set. I finally found myself outside a tiny cafe, nearly empty, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. I stepped inside, ordered black coffee, and sat by the window, staring out at the darkness. And for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to feel everything. Not just the betrayal. Not just the humiliation. But the grief. The grief for the life I almost had. For the illusion I held so tightly. For the people I thought I knew. I wasn't just mourning Andrew. I was mourning Nate too. Because despite everything, he was my brother. My family. And somewhere in the past, before all this, he really did love me. I think he did. But love, real love, doesn't come with conditions. Doesn't stab you in the back when you're not looking. The next morning, I went back to my apartment. Andrew was waiting outside. His tuxedo was wrinkled, his hair a mess. His face lit up when he saw me, but I didn't slow down. I didn't speak. I was drunk, he said, following me as I walked past him. I didn't mean for it to happen. I turned to him. You weren't drunk every time. He opened his mouth but said nothing. I let the silence speak for me. Then I shut the door in his face. 2 days later, I met Nate. I told him to meet me at the lake where we used to go fishing as kids. It was quiet there. No audience. No drama. Just me and the boy who once held my hand when I was scared of the water. He looked older. Broken, maybe. I messed up, he said immediately. I hate myself for it. I sat down on the bench beside him. Do you love him? His head dropped. I don't know. Maybe. I didn't plan it. I was just lonely. And he said things to me that you never did. Things I needed to hear. That hit harder than I expected. Do you know what you did to me? I asked. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I can forgive you, I said. But I can't ever trust you again. You're my brother. And you tore something sacred apart. I know, he whispered. I'll regret it forever. I believed him. But that didn't fix anything. I left without saying goodbye. Following weeks were rough. People talked. Some took my side. Some didn't. Andrew tried reaching out again. Nate sent letters. I burned them all. But I kept going. I got a new apartment. Started therapy. Took time off work. Some days I cried. Some days I raged. But slowly I began to heal. And then, one morning months later, I woke up and realized I didn't think about Andrew or Nate the night before. Not even once. That was the day I knew I'd survived. Not just the wedding. Not just the betrayal. But the slow death of everything I believed love was supposed to be. Now, I don't look back with bitterness. I look back with clarity. I was brave. I chose the truth over comfort. I chose myself. Would I still have said I object if I could do it again? Without hesitation. 'Cause in that moment I saved my own life. And if you're watching this, wondering whether you should walk away from something that hurts, even if it looks perfect from the outside, let this be your sign. You are allowed to choose yourself. Even if it means walking out in a white dress with no one waiting at the end of the aisle. Story 2. I never thought the warmest place on earth would turn my heart cold forever. Started like a dream, the kind you don't want to wake up from. We were on a trip to Hawaii, the kind you see on postcards or in someone else's fantasy, and it was meant to be the happiest week of my life. I was there with my boyfriend of 4 years, Ethan, and my godmother, Veronica, who'd been like a second mom to me since childhood. She helped raise me after my real mother passed away when I was 10. Veronica had money, charm, and the kind of laugh that made you feel safe. When she offered to take us on this trip to celebrate our engagement, I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Looking back, I should have seen the signs, how she looked at him when she thought I wasn't watching, how he lingered just a second too long when they hugged hello. But I was in love. Blinded by it. We landed in Maui under a gold-pink sunset, the ocean breeze like silk against my skin. The fiery few days were bliss, sunsets on the beach, fresh pineapple, laughter, long walks with Ethan, and late-night talks with Veronica. She told me how proud she was of me, how lucky Ethan was to have someone who loved him so fully. Her words felt like honey then, not poison. On the 4th night, something shifted. Ethan started acting distant, checking his phone too often, disappearing for walks alone. I chalked it up to nerves. Maybe he was overwhelmed. Maybe he was planning something romantic. I never guessed what he was actually doing. On the fifth night, we had dinner at a secluded restaurant overlooking the water. Veronica wore a red dress I'd never seen before, tight, elegant, too young for her. Ethan couldn't take his eyes off her. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was imagining things. But when he reached for her wine glass instead of mine during a toast, something inside me cracked. That night I couldn't sleep. Trade winds whispered through the open window, and Ethan wasn't in bed. I got up, heart pounding, and followed the flicker of candlelight down to the beach. And there they were. Veronica, barefoot in the sand, Ethan standing too close. I couldn't hear their words, but I didn't need to. I saw the way she touched his arm, the way he leaned in. Kiss was quick, but it shattered me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked back to the room in silence, numbness spreading through me like frostbite. I packed my things and left the next morning without a word. I turned off my phone, blocked their numbers, and FLEW home. For weeks, I didn't tell anyone. I just said the trip didn't go as planned. I didn't even tell my best friend until she showed up at my apartment and found me crying on the bathroom floor. What hurt the most wasn't the betrayal. It was who betrayed me. Ethan, the man who promised me forever. Veronica, the woman who raised me when my mother couldn't. They didn't just ruin a vacation. They broke something in me I'm still trying to fix. Days turned into weeks. I stayed locked inside my apartment, skipping work, ignoring calls, barely eating. I kept replaying the moment on the beach in my mind, as if understanding it would make it hurt less. But every detail just carved the wound deeper. My mind tormented me with questions I'd never get answers to. How long had it been going on? Who made the fires move? Did they laugh behind my back? Did they ever really love me, either of them? The silence left room for 1,000 imagined betrayals. Then one afternoon, as the rain tapped softly on my window, I found a letter wedged into my mailbox. No return address. Just my name in Veronica's handwriting. I hesitated for a long time before opening it. Inside were 3 pages, each word dripping with regret. She called it a mistake. A moment of weakness. She said she'd been lonely since my mother died, that she confused the attention with something deeper. She begged me to talk to her. She wanted to fix things. But some things aren't meant to be fixed. Some things have to stay broken so you never forget what they taught you. Not long after, Ethan reached out too. A late-night email full of half-formed apologies and the same tired phrase. It didn't mean anything. But it meant something to me. It meant everything. It meant I wasn't enough. Or at least that's what I believed, until I realized their betrayal said more about them than it ever did about me. I started therapy. First few sessions were hard. I didn't know how to talk about the betrayal without falling apart. But over time, I stopped blaming myself. I stopped seeing their actions as a reflection of my worth. I started rebuilding from the inside out. And that's when I made the decision to go back. Not to them, but to the place where it all happened. To Hawaii. I needed to take back the memories they tried to stain. I booked the same hotel. Requested the same room. I walked the beach alone at sunrise and let the waves wash away the ghost of that night. One morning, while sketching the view from a rocky cliff, I met Koa. He was quiet, kind, with a presence that didn't demand anything. He invited me to one of his painting classes. I said yes. Not because I was ready to move on, but because I was ready to remember who I was before the hurt. We spent days painting side by side, talking about everything and nothing. I told him the truth. All of it. He didn't judge. He didn't flinch. He just listened. And sometimes that's all you need to start healing. came back home lighter. Not FIXED but freer. I deleted the old photos. Gave away the gifts Ethan had given me. Donated the dress I wore that night to someone who might make new memories in it. I started journaling, volunteering, creating. And today I'm sharing this story not for sympathy but for connection. Because maybe you've been there too. Maybe someone you trusted broke you in a way you didn't think you could survive. But you did. Or you will. 'Cause betrayal doesn't get to define us. What we do afterward does. We get to write the next chapter. We get to choose what love looks like from now on. And for me, love looks like honesty. It looks like peace. It looks like long walks alone and dinners with friends who know all your flaws and stay anyway. It looks like waking up each day and choosing yourself. I'm still healing, still growing, but I'm no longer standing on broken pieces. I'm building something new, something honest, something real. And if you're still in the pain, I promise you, you won't be there forever. You are not what they did to you. You are who you become after. And if my story reached you today, maybe it's because you were meant to hear it. Maybe you needed the reminder that you're not alone. That healing is messy, non-linear, and deeply personal, but also possible. You can scream, cry, break down, and rebuild. And one day, without realizing it, you'll wake up and feel the sun again. Not the scorching pain of memory, but the gentle warmth of something new. Possibility. Of life. You are allowed to let go, not for them, but for you. 'Cause when you let go of what broke you, you create space for what can grow. For the love you deserve. For the peace you crave. For the life that's still waiting on the other side of grief. So don't rush your healing. Let it come in waves. Let it teach you. Let it shape you. You are more than what happened. You are becoming someone even stronger, even softer, even more radiant than before. Keep going. Keep breathing. Keep loving first and always yourself. Story 3: I found out my boyfriend cheated on me while I was in a coma. I know how that sounds, like a bad plot twist in a soap opera or one of those tabloid stories you scroll past on your lunch break and laugh about with a friend. The kind of thing that feels too cruel to be real. But I lived it. And I'm telling it now not just because I need to get it out, but because someone out there might need to hear it. Maybe you've been blindsided too. Maybe you've handed your heart to someone you thought you could trust and watched them crush it without a second thought. Or maybe you're just trying to understand how love can rot from the inside when you're not even awake to defend yourself. 6 months ago, I was hit by a drunk driver. It happened in broad daylight, just a regular Tuesday afternoon. I was crossing the street 3 blocks from my apartment. I remember sunlight, warmth on my skin, birds. I remember texting my boyfriend, Jake, to say I'd grab dinner on the way home. I never got to pick it up. I never made it home. The next memory I have is of a hospital room, blinding lights, unfamiliar voices, tubes in my arms, and a nurse whispering my name like she didn't know if I'd ever respond. I had been in a coma for 42 days. That's 42 days of darkness. 42 days where my body hovered between life and death. Time kept moving, people kept living, and I was suspended somewhere in between. Jake, they told me, never left my side. He was the devoted boyfriend. The one who showed up every day. The nurses adored him. He brought flowers, played our favorite songs, held my hand, said my name like a prayer. They called him perfect. And I believed it because I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe in something. The days after I woke were messy. Nothing felt real. My mind was foggy, my body weak, everything unfamiliar. I was trapped in a shell of myself. But Jake's face? That was clear. His eyes welled up when I opened mine. He kissed my forehead, told me he thought he'd lost me, said he'd never stop loving me. I believed every word. I clung to his voice like a lifeline. Because when your world has been shattered, you grab onto what feels steady. Rehabilitation was a nightmare. My muscles had atrophied. I couldn't walk, couldn't hold a cup without shaking. My mom flew in from out of state and moved into my apartment. Jake visited daily at Firesty. He'd bring snacks I used to love. He'd rub my hands, kiss my forehead. But then things started to change. He started coming late. Then missing days. He said work was overwhelming, that he was exhausted. I nodded and smiled. I didn't want to be a burden. He'd already gone through so much, right? But something was off. Emily, my best friend, started acting strange around me. My mom would change the subject when I asked about Jake. Once I saw a nurse give my mom a look, the kind of look full of quiet understanding and hidden tension. A look that said, "You know, right?" But I didn't. Not yet. One evening, the hospital was quiet. Just me, the four, and the hum of machines. Emily sat beside me, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. I asked her directly, "Is something going on with Jake?" She froze. Her eyes filled before she even opened her mouth. "He didn't mean to," she whispered. Jake had been unfaithful. Repeatedly. Not a drunken mistake. Not one night of weakness. A full-blown betrayal. He had slept with Sarah, my roommate. My friend. The girl who'd posted stories about how much she missed me, how much she prayed for me. All while sneaking into Jake's bed at night. While I was lying unconscious in a hospital room. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just shut down. My insides felt hollow. For days I barely spoke. I let nurses take my vitals, let doctors ask their questions, but inside I was gone. Floating somewhere cold and numb. That Friday, Jake showed up like nothing was wrong. Smiling. Brought flowers. Sat at my bedside, brushing my hair from my face. Told me he missed me. That he couldn't wait to take me home. I looked at him and asked, "How long did it take before you replaced me?" He blinked. Confused. "What? How long?" I repeated, my voice flat. Panic flashed in his eyes. Then guilt. Then excuses. He said he was broken. Lost. That Sarah was there when he needed someone. That he didn't know how to cope. That it wasn't what it looked like. Tears poured from his face. Not mine. I watched the man who whispered promises at my bedside turn into a stranger. A man who saw my still body not as a tragedy but as an inconvenience. A man who saw my silence as freedom. "You said you were by my side every day," I whispered. "I was," he said. But there it was. Truth hidden behind that word. But that's when I saw it clearly. He never loved me. Not really. He loved having someone who asked for nothing, who didn't challenge him, who couldn't call him out. He loved the illusion of loyalty without the weight of accountability. He left that day. I never saw him again. But Sarah, she wasn't done. She showed up the day I got discharged. Like nothing had happened. With flowers. With a sad smile. Saying Jake told her we weren't serious. Saying she thought I'd never wake up. Saying she didn't know how to stop. I didn't say a word. I shut the door. The months that followed were the hardest of my life and the most powerful. I had to rebuild not just my body but my entire sense of self. I started walking again, then running, cooked for myself, painted my nails, sat in the sun. I dyed my hair, changed my number, moved, cut ties with anyone who knew and stayed silent. I went to therapy. I screamed into pillows. I sobbed in the shower. I started journaling. I led pages with every thought, every scream I couldn't say out loud. I joined a trauma support group. I started painting. First it was ugly. Then it wasn't. I sold a piece on Etsy called Still Here. 'Cause I am. Still here. Despite the betrayal. Despite the coma. Despite the people I thought would never hurt me. Jake sends messages sometimes. From burner accounts. Asking if we can talk. If we can find closure. But closure is a myth. It's not something you wait for. It's something you make. The truth is simple. If someone betrays you when you're helpless, they never cared for you as a person. Just for what you gave them. If someone sees your vulnerability and chooses selfishness, they don't belong in your healing. I am not the woman I was before the accident. I'm stronger now. Not in the way that sounds cute on a coffee mug, but in the way forged in fire. I know what it means to hit the bottom and claw my way back. I know what it's like to live when I wasn't supposed to. And if you're watching this, if you feel abandoned or heartbroken or numb, I want you to hear me. You are not alone. You are not finished. You are still here. And that matters. 'Cause being alive means you still get to write the next chapter. Even when it hurts. Even when it's unfair. Even when it feels like the people you trusted most burn down the foundation of your world, there is more. There's laughter waiting. There's peace. There's joy so unexpected it'll make your chest ache in the best way. You don't owe them anything. Not a reply. And not your pain. Not your attention. You owe yourself everything. So if it hurts, let it hurt. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream, scream. But don't stop moving. You're still here. And your story is only just beginning. After hearing all these stories about betrayal, survival, and starting over, what do you think is the one thing no one deserves to go through in a relationship? Let's talk in the comments.